Well, hello, I'm Professor Mark Pike here in the School of Education at the University of Leeds with my good friend Professor Thomas Licona from the State University of New York at Cortland to talk to you about the Narnian Virtues Character Education English curriculum.
Yes, we have a Center for Character Education at our university in Central New York, the Center for the 4th and 5th R's, Respect and Responsibility. And we are delighted to be teaming up with the University of Leeds on what we think is a very important character education English curriculum here in the country of England.
Okay, and internationally, because many of you watching will be outside of the UK and indeed outside of Europe. The first point to make is that it's not character or academic success, academic attainment, that the two go hand in hand. And I'm going to begin by reading a quotation from the Journal of Character Education from Berkowitz and Beer, 2004. Character education has been demonstrated to be associated with academic motivation and aspirations, academic achievement, pro-social behaviour, bonding to school, and lots of other attributes listed there as well. So it's not academics or character, the two go hand in hand. And I'd like to answer two questions at the very beginning. Why character education through literature, and why character education through Narnia, through the work of C.S. Lewis in particular. So first of all, why character education through literature? Through literature, children, readers, young people, adults, enter another world. We empathise with characters. We believe that we're there. We engage. We feel. It engages our emotions and our affect, not just our head, but our heart, that Tom will say more about later on. And when we're in this other world, we see the choices that characters make, the decisions that they make, and also the consequences of those actions. So for instance, in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, we see the bad choices that Edmund makes and how it gets him in a very great deal of trouble, and the moral seriousness of that. We see the Pevensies grow in character. They grow in virtue. They begin just being concerned about themselves, and Peter, Susan and Lucy are thinking, well, how do we get Edmund back? And then they move to wanting to liberate the land from tyranny and to free it from the clutches of the White Witch. So literature, all literature, is especially powerful in terms of character education because it actually engages with our reading of characters in a fictional world that helps us read people and read situations in real life. Why Narnia? Well, we think it's not been really done before. There are lots of character education programs out there using different literature, but it seemed to us that C.S. Lewis was neglected as a children's author in terms of the potential for character education.
Does anyone say, but aren't Lewis's novels a little bit out of date? The language is old-fashioned. Do modern children really resonate to these novels?
Well, the by Jove and the by gum and the I say of 1950s British English is part of the charm of the novels, I would say, Tom, and part of the charm of entering that other world in a different time and a different place to the one inhabited by young readers living in the 21st century.
And has the program actually seen those kinds of responses from children, that they resonate to the novels, they get engaged by them?
Absolutely. The language is not a barrier so much as it's a focus of interest for the children, although I cannot claim that out on the playground or the sports field, 21st century children are now saying by gum or by Jove.
Let me piggyback on Mark's point about literature engaging the head and the heart. And let me start with a story that suggests the importance of really engaging the whole child in a good character education program. A teacher was concerned about how children were treating each other in her classroom, wanted to try to raise the level of empathy and caring, and chose what she thought was an excellent picture book, read it to the children, had a circle discussion, and thought it was a wonderful exchange of insights and appreciation of the point of the story, and felt very happy about what seemed to be the outcome of the time spent reading, thinking about, discussing this story with her fourth grade children, aged 9. And then they queued up for lunch, and one girl standing behind another child said over her shoulder, loud enough for most classmates to hear, "No one cares that it's your birthday." And the teacher was stunned by the cruelty of that child's comment. How could she just have participated in a conversation about caring, a discussion of a book about empathy and treating people in caring ways, and then turn around and make such a vicious comment to her classmate? And actually, the teacher shared this with me. She was so disappointed. I was teaching my character education course at the college, and she told the story to me before class began and said, "What could I have done differently?" I said, well, I mean, the answer to her, the answer that I would offer in general, is that it's not enough for children to understand these virtues. That child who made the cruel comment could well have understood empathy and caring at an intellectual level. And that's the head part. That's what we begin with. When we're attempting to educate for character, we want children to have an intellectual grasp of what the virtues mean, what do they look like, what do they not look like, and so on. But even more than that, we want them to care about the virtues, to want to possess them, to value them, to feel bad if they don't practice the virtue, to admire the virtue when they see it in a story character or in a real person. That's the heart part of character, the desire to have that as part of my own character. And then finally, we want them to not only understand it, care about it, but to actually put it into practice, to apply it in their own behavior. So in a program like this, we're really after full character development. The content of character is provided by the 6 Narnian virtues that Mark mentioned: wisdom and justice and fortitude and self-control and integrity and love. Those give us the content. But these psychological components of character are head, heart, and hand. We want children to understand these 6 virtues in their minds. We want them to care about them in their hearts. And then we want them, by dint of their willpower, by matter of practice, to turn them into habits so that they're a consistent part of their conduct in their relationships, not only in school, but in family life as well.
Yeah, and that's really the challenge that Tom brings to us, that virtue literacy is important, but that's not by all means the whole story. That if you have children using terms like fortitude, that is a good thing, but unless they're actually demonstrating and showing some fortitude, then in terms of character education, the project, the curriculum intervention will not have been completely successful by any means.
And this model of head, heart, and hand is not something that we invented. Really comes out of the field of moral psychology, which is more than a half-century old. And it's really the dominant paradigm in character education, that if we're doing character education well, then we're engaging the mind, the heart, and the hand.
So let's just go to the curriculum now and see how that works in practice. So you need some knowledge, you need to engage, develop empathy, value the virtues, but then you need an opportunity to practice those virtues. So we have a very simple and straightforward approach to our 6 virtues, and we have each virtue demonstrated twice throughout 12 passages. So this is the first passage. Lucy was very miserable. And this is from the teacher guide, and the children are learning about integrity here. They're highlighting in green the virtues, they're highlighting in red the vices. Edmund could be spiteful, and on this occasion he was spiteful. So the children highlight with their highlighter pens. They then do some English activities. They engage perhaps in some hot seating or some diary writing. They engage with what's going on, some script work. And then they take that home with them and they complete a character passport, which is where they get to practice the virtue that they've been learning about. I said there were 12 passages, and because there are 6 virtues, each virtue is addressed in 2 of the 12 passages. So this is integrity 1, and one of the other of the 12 passages will be integrity 2. But we don't come to this saying to the students, the virtue of the week is integrity. We come to them with the passage from the novel and elicit from the children, well, what is the virtue here? What is the focus that we can learn about in terms of good character development?
And prior to actually reading the passages, the children will have some instruction in the meaning of the virtues so that they're able to...
Yeah, so they need the knowledge to start with. So there's some sort card activities where definitions of the virtues are matched, and the students do work with semantic fields, synonyms, how close are these words to fortitude, how close are these words to love, so that they understand, that love is about unselfishness, that it's about kindness, that it's about looking out for the other person rather than about self-gratification. And once they've understood the virtues, they're then in a position, thanks for pointing that out, Tom, they're then in a position to do the highlighting and to do the identifying of the particular virtue.
Great.
Okay, so in another extract, we're going to talk about the character passport, so more detail on the character passport to come. We very much appreciate you working with us with the Narnian Virtues project, wherever you're listening, wherever you're viewing from, and we hope that the resources will help you to cultivate not just the understanding of the young people, the young readers, the learners that you're working with, not just their understanding, not just their appreciation of English literature, but their character development and their practicing of a range of virtues in order to build on their existing character development.
A question that's sometimes been asked is, does reading a good book make me a better person? And the answer is...
It's a good question.
Not necessarily. Potentially, yes. We think that with the right approach to literature, reading a good book like the Lewis novels has a better chance of making children better persons than if we didn't take this approach.
Of course, a bigger question is, what is a good book? I think all we'll say for now is that the moral universe of the Narnia novels are consistent with Lewis's moral understanding of the universe, and we see good choices being rewarded and things going quite badly for characters when they exhibit vices and make bad choices rather than good ones. So thank you very much.
Thank you.